This year, we're on the topic of miracles. And have you ever wondered or really thought any more closely about what a miracle actually is? Probably got a bit of a surface idea, of course, but not many people really dive into that specific word and what that word really means and what a miracle really looks like in this space. We have, of course, some historical references of all cultures and across all religions, one most notably, of course, being Jesus, but that is of one religion of one time. There have been many miracle workers and globally known miracle workers throughout the course of history. But what is a miracle? We largely associate miracles to do with healing. Yes, that is often true, at least in a documented sense. But I guess if we delve a little further into what the actual mechanics and the nature of what it is we're talking about, perhaps we will expand our awareness of this into other areas of our life where we may have completely discounted the possibility of a miracle being right there at the time, or potentially right in front of our face, and we just haven't noticed it. And so the definition of a miracle is really important if we're going to understand a little more about how they work and a little more about how we can duplicate them and make them work on purpose. And so a miracle, of course, historically and via reference is, as I said, traditionally around one of healing and around one of physical transformation, which of course is a progression of illness, and from a state of illness or unwellness or disease in a person's body to a state of whole and complete healing and remission of those symptoms and of anything to do with that diagnosed illness or condition. And so of course that is a progression from any particular state of unwellness and uncenteredness to a state of complete wellness and centeredness. And so there is a progression in time. The one thing the miracle does, of course, is that it eliminates time. And from a 3D or from a physical perspective, the one thing the miracle really does, regardless of what it achieves or the nature of the act itself, so to speak, is the actual mechanics of miracles bypass the fundamental laws of this space, being time and space, being distance. A miracle rarely, throughout history or by definition, will produce a result that is supernatural by definition. A miracle will largely produce a result that is well within the realm of normal and understood within physical reality. The one thing the miracle does, however, is that it completely bypasses the laws of time and space, meaning that it can produce an item here, now, where that item was not here or now. The miracle can induce and reinstate a state of perfection now, rather than via a linear process of time where we make it a path from a state of unwellness on an arc to wellness. Wellness is present immediately and wholly now. It is installed completely, like we've just jumped to the very last page in the book of our recovery process. So really a miracle doesn't do anything miraculous, so to speak. It's in the way that it works with the conditions of how we see things happen and how we believe things progress, which is very much embedded in time. And over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to talk about time a little more as well, because time as a faculty and as a tool and a concept is very much related to miracles. And so we're going to talk a bit more about time as we go along. But again, back to, well, what is a miracle? A miracle is really any process that does very much bypass the laws of time and space as we perceive them, producing a result that is within the realm of our awareness and understanding, but outside of how it got to be that way in the way that it appeared or produced. The other thing to consider around miracles is whether you believe they are something supernatural or extraordinary from the position of being human and of physical. I guess humanity has sort of found its way into this very soft, conceited point where the divine and the realm of the miraculous and of God and so forth is so far out of our awareness, it is just so far out of our life and our heart and our daily life, that it's like miraculous with a capital M. When we even think about the idea, it's so far out of our scope of our daily life that any time we hear it, we firmly plant it into the God or the religious bucket or the absolutely extraordinary, not possible, highly unlikely bucket and so forth. It's not something very common, and that when it is done, it is miraculous in its timing. The people that are able to do it have special gifts, special abilities. There is something unique about the miracle worker, as different to everybody else. And so there is a rarity to the miracle, a uniqueness, a high level of specialness to the miracle, because we are not seeing it every day and most people aren't doing it. And so that's the general kind of perception of the miracle. But I would put it to you that there are other ways to perceive the miracle and perceive miracle space. And one of them, which really is a more inclusive point of view from my awareness and my sense of things, is one that we draw from A Course in Miracles, which is from the position that we are not human perceiving a spiritual state and conditions and events of a spiritual nature via our human eyes as it would appear. We are spiritual beings, and we are first and foremost, in a first-person identity sense, spirit, containing an expression, extension, or experience of being human within that. That is a complete 180 in the way that we see things as humans. No matter how lodged we are in our human perspective of things, if we are referring to spirit, then we are doing so from the perspective of not spirit, and we are identifying with our human self, and therefore miracles and God and all things within that other space will appear other and different and unusual to us. If we, as A Course in Miracles suggests, re-anchor our perspective back into that we are spirit, that we are that first and foremost, that we are spirit and our body is within our awareness and our thoughts, we are not thinking and aware within a body, then the perspective of the miracle is very different, because it really implies, and it states quite openly, that the miraculous is nothing special, it is nothing unique, and it is nothing available to a privileged person. It is what you might consider closer to our natural state. It is closer to who and what and the way we are inherently as spirit within God, and that it is only our physical limitations and our perceptions with our identifications with the body that make it all seem very different and over there and overwhelming and out of touch, and not something that we are, and certainly not something that we can get a grasp on and have any connection or relationship to. A Course in Miracles sees that completely differently, and in regards to working miracles, sees miracles as something entirely normal and consistent, and as a fundamental aspect of your true self. And therefore, in this space where miracles are not occurring, something in terms of your perspective or your perception is effectively going wrong. You are not seeing things for how it is, from the position of it being spirit. When you are anchored in that space, that is the space of the miraculous. So you are then more interested in, where am I tripping up? Where is it getting caught or bottlenecked or not happening? Why is it not happening? You also move from a place of prayer or requesting a miracle, asking for a miracle, which is again founded on the perception that the miracle is somewhere else, that it is over there, that it is not where and who you are now, that we are going to request them and pray for a miracle as a separate thing. it is good to keep in mind that Jesus, historically and from our sense, did not pray. Jesus commanded miracles. Jesus directed miracles, and they were done quite explicitly in a commanding and directing fashion. By the power of God, you are healed. There's no request within that, and there's no asking within that. And so again, if you can re-anchor yourself on the other side of, from a spiritual perspective, perceiving a human experience, that really is more in line with that, because it is who and what we are. We are simply extending who and what we are simply and knowingly in the way that we would breathe and trust some of our physical faculties. It's a very different perspective, and I'm sure it's getting your kind of mind moving when you're thinking about the two very opposite ways of perceiving miracles. From the position of that we are spirit, the miraculous begins to seem a whole lot less miraculous, or at least it should. It is only from this perspective and limited perspective of not spirit that it all seems very unusual and special and out of reach. It's good to think about both of those perspectives as we progress along in our journey in 2019, exploring more about miracles and miracle workers, the function of miracles and some of the formula and processes as we uncover them. We're going to be talking a little more about A Course in Miracles and the perspective of miracles, that we are spirit, first and foremost, that our identity is that of spirit, and we are having a human experience within that which we are, and that the limitations of anything we cannot do within our identity of spirit are anchored to and tied to our perception and our attachment to this weird perception of our human existence, being so limiting and bottlenecking of what we are. Have a sit with that, and if you are interested in learning more, please message us via the page, and would be very happy to talk more about these different orientations to understanding the miraculous space within the world and within our hearts and our awareness. More to come over the next few days, guys. Would love to keep a conversation about miracles going in our own life. This has nothing to do with religion. This is everything to do with God and our connection to God. They are not the same thing. They are very different. And so let us continue our connection in this space of God, and talking more about the space of the miraculous and bringing miracles into a very practical way into our lives that we may share together. Blessings. Amen.